Hi, I'm Keith McCormick from Qubit. I want to tell you a little bit about this preview. This preview is a selection taken from one of our IBM SPSS statistics classes. You know, our whole team has been using SPSS statistics their whole careers. We use it every day. I think what makes our classes unique is it's not just about the point and click. It's really the wisdom that we've accumulated over decades of using the product. So what are you going to see? What we've tried to do is choose about 10 or 15 minutes selected from one of our classes that you can learn something right now by watching one of these previews. And of course, we hope you really enjoy it and that you seek out some of the other previews that we have on this channel and that you want to find out more about our classes. Hope you enjoy the preview.
Let's go through an example of how to use the compute variable transformation. So we're going to go to the transform menu and we're going to click on compute variable. Now, in our data set, we happen to have 6 variables, 3 that have to do with staff and 3 that have to do with store, and all of them have to do with satisfaction with regard to these 6 aspects of the staff and the store. Now we can right click on any one of those variables, and I'm going to go down to variable information, and you can see what the values are. 1 is very unsatisfied all the way to 5 being very satisfied. So the higher the number, the more satisfied people are with these 6 different aspects of either the staff or the store. So one thing we might want to do is we might want to create an overall satisfaction score based on these 6 different components. So basically what we want to do is we want to add up all 6 of these variables, create an overall satisfaction score for the store and the staff. So let's do that. The first thing we need to do is we need to go to the target variable box, and we have to give our new variable a name. And we're going to call it sat underscore num numeric mean. Okay? Now the way we're going to create this variable is just we're going to create our own expression. As a default, this variable is going to be a numeric variable, so we're just going to continue and create the variable now. Now the way we're going to create this variable is we're going to click on the parentheses, and that'll put them in the numeric expression box. We're then going to add in the variable staff politeness, which is staff1. We'll put that in the numeric expression box. We'll click on the plus sign. We'll add in the variable staff helpfulness. Click on the plus sign. We'll add in the staff checkout variable. Click on the plus sign. We'll add in the first store variable, ease of finding products. We'll click on the plus sign. We're going to bring in store cleanliness. Click on the plus sign again. And finally, we're going to bring in store attractive displays. Now we want the mean in this case, or the average. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these 6 variables and we're going to divide. So we'll click on the divide sign and we're going to put in the number 6. We have a total of 6 variables. We're going to divide by the number 6 and we'll click OK. So we've created this new variable now. We can scroll over to the end of the file. And you can see, for example, that we have some missing information on this new variable. In fact, if we look at the first row, we can see that we have complete data for 5 out of these 6 variables. But on the variable staff2, we have a value of 9, which means that we have a no answer or missing data. And as we had mentioned before, if you happen to have missing data, whenever you create your own equation, you're going to have missing information on that final variable that you've created. Okay? If we look at the second case, we see that we have missing information for most of these variables. We have a lot of values of 9. So therefore, we have missing information on the new variable that we just created. However, if we look at row number 3, notice that we have valid, complete information for all 6 of these variables. Therefore, we get a mean satisfaction score. Now, instead of creating the variable this way, we're going to now create that same variable, but we're going to use a function instead. So we're going to click on dialog recall, and we're going to then click on compute variable. We're going to click on the reset button, and we're going to give this new variable a name. Again, we're going to call it sat underscore fun for function, and then mean. Now we're going to specify how we're going to create this new variable, and what we're going to do is we're going to use a function. So we're going to go to these different function groups, and we're going to choose the statistical function group because we want to use a mean function. So I'll select the statistical function group. All the functions for that group are located down below. One of these is the mean function. I'll click on the mean function. And now what this is telling us is it's giving us a definition of the mean function. It's going to return the mathematical mean of its arguments that have valid non-missing values. This function requires 2 or more arguments, and they must be numeric. Perfect. Now, this is the way this function works. We're going to have the word mean as the function, and then each argument is going to be separated by a comma. So to bring in the mean function, we're just going to click on this little arrow. We'll bring the mean function into the expression box, and then we're going to bring in the first staff variable. We brought it in. We'll jump over that first comma. We'll bring in the second staff variable. We'll add in a comma. We'll bring in the third staff variable, comma. First store variable, comma as well. The second store variable, we'll add in a comma. And then finally, we're going to bring in the last store variable. We won't add a comma here, but notice that we cannot click OK yet until we get rid of that question mark. All right, there we go. Now, this is doing the same thing. We're also going to get the mean, but this time we're going to use a function instead. And we're just going to click OK now. We'll go back over to our data editor here. And notice that for this new variable that we've created, we don't really have very much missing data, if any at all. We may have some down below, but at least right now we can't actually see any missing data. Now, notice that when we had complete data, the mean numeric expression that we created gives us the same values as the mean function. However, when we had missing data, we get very different results. Because notice on the first case, we have valid values for 5 out of the 6 variables. We had missing information for the variable staff 2, but yet we're still able to calculate a mean. Now, the reason we're able to calculate a mean when we're using a function is that SPSS knows what a mean is. It knows that you have to take the number of arguments and divide by the total number of arguments that went into that equation. So if we happen to have 6 valid arguments, we're going to divide by 6. If we happen to only have 2 valid arguments, we're going to divide by 2. And so you can end up getting very different results depending on whether you create your own expression or if you end up using a function, even though it seems like both are actually doing the same thing. Now, it's always a good idea to check your work, and this is one way to check your work, just looking at the data editor. Another way in which we can check our work is we can go up to the Analyze menu, and we can go down to Reports, and we can move over to Case Summaries. And here what we're going to do is we're going to select all 6 of the satisfaction variables, the store and staff variables. We'll put those into the variable box. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to get those 2 mean variables that we just created. We'll put those into the variable box as well. Now this is going to show us the actual cases as part of the output. We're going to limit this to the first 100 cases, and we're showing valid cases, only the valid cases. We'll click OK. We're going to scroll down a little bit here. And you can see what the case summaries procedure is doing is it's giving us the value for each one of those different variables. And then we can see what the values are for the new variables that we created as well. So you can see that we had valid values for all of the variables for the first case except for staff helpfulness. We had a no answer. So therefore, we did not get an actual value when we computed the mean by creating our own expression. However, when we used the function, we were able to create a mean there as well. So you can see the same kind of general information that we had seen before as part of the dialog box, but this is just another way in which you can check your work. And again, you always want to check your work so that you can make sure that you've created the variable the way you set out to create it.